Hello, welcome to Tax Talk number 2. My name is Miranda Rhyne, and I'm a tax attorney here at Legal Aid of Northwest Texas. So I want to jump right into it today, but real quick, just know that what we talk about today is just for educational purposes. It is not legal advice, and every situation is very fact specific. So if you do have a tax issue, please seek professional help. If you think you might qualify for our services, we welcome you to do so. You can do that through our website. You can call in, and links for that and also some things that I talk about today will be posted in the comment section under the video. So thank you for tuning in today. And I'm going to talk about what can you expect if you owe the IRS, and are there any options available to you? So before we get to what happens if you owe, let's talk about how to avoid owing the IRS. You need to always keep really good records of things that are on your tax return. Keep your tax records for 6 years, because ultimately you are responsible for being able to prove everything that's put on that tax return, even if somebody else helps you file it and you paid them. So this is especially true for folks who have tax returns that are reporting things more than wages. Maybe you're self-employed, maybe you're claiming a loss, maybe you're doing something with a home, and you might need those documents several years later to review for another tax year. Anything like that should really, you should really keep the records for as long as possible. And then if you do have to mail anything to the IRS, make sure you keep a copy and send it certified mail. That way you can track it and prove that you sent it on the day you sent it, because you might lose some things that are eligible for you to get from the IRS if you can't prove when you actually sent the correspondence. Okay, what if you move though? You want to make sure you can keep your address updated with the IRS so that if they do send you notices, you're going to get them. You can do that by submitting IRS form 8822, change of address. You can update it with the USPS on their website, and that is supposed to update with IRS records. But another way to do it is when you file a tax return, that will update automatically to that current address that's on the tax return. One more thing before we get into what if you owe the IRS, what if you owe another government agency? If your tax return shows a refund and you owe another government agency, that government agency might be able to take the refund and go and apply it to the balance that you owe them. Okay, so another way to avoid getting a balance with IRS is to prevent an audit. This is especially important if you're claiming a dependent and that dependent is not your biological child, or if you come from a mixed family background, because somebody else might have tried to claim the child, and you really need to make sure that your records are updated when you're taking care of the child or other dependent that might be eligible to be claimed on your tax return. That dependent's address needs to match your address, and you really need to be able to show 7 months at least in the same tax year. So now, what if you owe the IRS? So if you owe the IRS, can they just come after you? Can they levy your bank account? Can they garnish your wages? No, they have to do some things first before they go and take some forced collection. They have to first finalize the debt, and then they have to send you notices that are required under law, and you'll probably get several notices before they can move forward in the forced collection process. But once they've notified you that you owe and you fail to respond, or basically if you ignore them, then that's when they can start the collection activity. They can levy your bank account, they can garnish your wages, and if it's over $10,000, they can file a lien in the county deed records. So these are all things that could really impact other areas of your life. Now, if you're receiving Social Security benefits, they might be able to levy those as well. So the IRS can levy retirement benefits and survivor's benefits. The IRS is prohibited by law to levy SSI, SSDI, children's benefits, or lump sum death benefits. Now, how does IRS, can they come after you forever? Can they get this debt 20 years down the line? Probably not. Okay. And I say probably not because there's a statute of limitations on how much they can, or how long that they can collect from you. And that depends on several factors, but generally it's 10 years. Okay. So if you file your tax return and you show a balance due and it's never audited, they have 10 years from the tax filing deadline. If it's later audited, then that 10 years is going to start after they finalize the debt after the audit. Now, there are some things that can stop that 10 years from running, like filing a bankruptcy, or if you want to pursue the offer and compromise program with the IRS, which I'll talk about at the end of this program. But just be aware that generally it's 10 years and there are some things that can affect that. Now, if you have a continuous levy, say on your Social Security retirement, you have to take affirmative action to get that levy stopped after the 10 years because it will still attach after the 10 years. So just like everything else, there's rules, but there's exceptions to everything. So just be aware of that. Now, what if you owe and you're not able to pay in full, right? So what are your options? You can get into a monthly payment plan. You can set that up online. And that's the best way to do it is to set up your online account and pay there. You may qualify for the hardship status of currently not collectible. And this is available when a taxpayer really can't pay even $5 to the IRS. So the IRS will look at your monthly income and your expenses and evaluate your situation to see if you qualify. Now, if your only income is Social Security disability, I said they can't levy that, so you're automatically going to be protected. If your income is Social Security retirement only, you may qualify to get in the status, but again, you have to take action and call the IRS to request it. Okay, well, can you write off the tax debt? Yes, there is an option to do that. I'm sure many of you have heard radio ads or TV commercials with these companies saying, we'll write off your IRS debt, pay us, it's pennies on the dollar. Okay, I just want you to know to be very careful going to these companies. I'm sure there are some that are excellent, but we see too often that they're just offering compromise mills and they take people's money and they never help them get the debt written off with IRS. So be really careful with these places. And in fact, you can check your eligibility for the offer and compromise program through the IRS website for free. It'll ask you some questions. And once you get through that, it'll say whether they think you're eligible and would be a good candidate. And then if you feel comfortable, you can file the forms by yourself. Just be careful. It is a contract with the IRS. If you don't feel comfortable filing the offer and compromise by yourself and you think you will qualify for our services, we welcome you to apply. Or if you don't qualify for our services, please seek a tax professional, at least to talk about it before you do it. You don't have to have them submit it, but they can at least give you more information about what you can expect. So the offer and compromise program is a contract, and those contract terms are very specific. And the IRS is going to look at your income, your expenses, and assets. Some hurdles that might get in your way is if you have assets. So for example, you have money in your retirement account, you have equity in your home, if you have more than one car and you're single. So these are things that it doesn't mean you're not going to qualify. It just might increase the amount that you have to offer to the IRS before they'll write off the rest of the balance. And the biggest contract terms that you have to comply with if the offer is accepted is for the next 5 years, you have to make sure you file your tax return on time. And if that tax return shows a balance, you have to pay it by the tax filing deadline. Because if you don't meet either one of those terms, the IRS can go back and revoke the offer and put back all of that debt on your account. And then they're going to add penalties and interest that would have been accruing for the past year, 2 years, 3 years, while they had written off the offer for you or the balance for you. So those are going to be your alternatives to forced collection. And I know a lot of folks think the IRS is really scary, and in my experience, I know that they're actually one of the easier government agencies to work with as long as you stay in communication. They understand that folks have bills to pay, they have to put roofs over their heads. So they do take into account your monthly expenses up to a reasonable amount. So if you get a bill from the IRS, don't panic. You probably have options. And if you qualify for our services, please feel free to apply. And thank you so much for attending today. I hope that you take something away that will be helpful to you or possibly someone you know.